Come, hold my hand. Let's go on an adventure. Can you turn off your video game? Can you turn off your darn video game?
Hey, what a zany week we've had, right?
I don't know. What happened?
Oh. What? Tilly.
So we just sat down, and it seems like the perfect opportunity for Tilly to ask to go to the bathroom.
No, she just wants to play now.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Welcome to Nomadic Adventures. I'm here with my very handsome co-host, Ryan, also known as Appa Tilly. Appa.
That's me. Ryan, parentheses, colon, quotation,
Ooh.
Appa.
Quotation Appa. I like quotation Appa. I actually was thinking today, I wonder if you're going to become Appa Tilly. This is Poppy's new favorite sentence. Appa Tilly, Appa Tilly, Appa Tilly, Appa Tilly. And I feel like you're very quickly not going to be Appa anymore. You're just going to be Appa Tilly.
I think that it's just that myself and Tilly are always at home when she's coming home. So that's why.
Yeah, but like even when we're out and like I'm walking with her and you're just out of sight, she'll say, so
two people that she can't see.
Yeah, I just feel like it's your like secondary name, or what's the surname? It's your surname. Anyway, welcome to Nomadic Adventures. On this episode, we are going to chat about New Orleans. We spent about
the Big Easy.
Is that what it's called?
That's, yeah.
I've never heard it called
It's
that.
like the Windy City, the Big Easy. I think also the Big Apple. I think it's called the Big Apple.
I'm feeling like I've seen a lot of the heart shape and then NO from New Orleans. Am I thinking of that right?
That's just stealing from I Heart New York, but yeah.
Oh, I thought that's what you were doing.
No, I was saying that like the Big Easy is what that one's called.
Oh.
The Windy City
you were
is like a nickname.
Other nicknames for
other
New
cities.
Orleans.
No.
Oh yeah, New Orleans is called the Big Easy. It's also called
the Big Apple.
The Big Apple and the Windy City. And so then I was riffing on that badly. Poorly.
Nailed it. The Big Shrimp. They call it the Big Shrimp.
What is it actually, the Big Easy?
Yeah.
Why?
You're going to have to find somebody better.
Tell us, guys. Tell us. Jump into the comment section of these. You can now comment in like the podcast app that you have.
Instead of just reviewing? You don't have to just review.
I think if you once you've reviewed the podcast, which thank you. If you haven't reviewed, please stop what you're doing right now. Go review.
Guys, stop.
And just
please. Go review.
Please. But truly, you can now in each episode, you can comment like on the episode. And so you can say, hey, when you said X, Y, and Z,
you were wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong. And this is why.
The Big Easy is actually because Easy Street was the first street.
I was going to make up a thing about how E and Z were made in New Orleans, like the letters.
That was the first time they used those letters. Yeah, probably.
Perfect. I'm going to jump in talking about two things because they're places that you didn't go. I'm just going to hop on in.
Go for it.
And if you can think of any questions that the guests might want, the listener might want to know. I want to talk about the libraries that I went to while we were there. Poppy and I went to 3 different libraries and 1 children's museum. The 3 libraries were Mid-City, Algiers, and I don't know if I'm saying that. Oh, Ryan's giving me a thumbs up. And then we also went to Milton H. Ladder. I don't know exactly what area it is. I feel like it's Colton, maybe, is an area. At Mid-City, it was one of the first libraries we went to where they drew a crowd. It wasn't like a one-off. The child's librarian there drew a crowd. It was the first library I went to. It's beautiful from the outside. Such a pretty library to look at. And then I was driving there, and as I was driving there, I saw this mom, and I was like, oh man, I hope, because she was pushing a stroller. And I was like, man, I really hope she's going to the library. She had, I think, purple hair at the time.
Yikes.
So I pull up with Poppy, and she is like walking into the library, and I confessed that to her instantly. And that was Lauren. And she became like my BFF mom friend. And we share our locations. Like we're each other's Sims now, and we can see where the other person is at all times, which I'm like, how great is that? That's true friendship, first of all. But that librarian's name was August, and they pulled such a crowd. Like parents would come every week, and like they knew the kids by name, got to know Poppy very quickly, would do songs and books in English and Spanish, and then would also sign and made everything themselves. There was a lot of heart in it, which I was like, so great. So August at Mid-City, like A+, go if you can. If you're in New Orleans with your kids, do it. Because that's the other thing. It's such a kid-friendly place, which we'll talk about more. And then the Milton Ladder one had an outside like story time 2 or 3 times a week. That was amazing. Milton H. Ladder that they did outside, and at Algiers, and that one, the librarian was Morgan. Also so amazing. Like she was so fun. She did like a butt book one day. That was really fun. It was all about some kid's butt. And I was like, that's such a great book. But like really into getting the kids moving, playing, jumping, getting their sillies out. I think the key to a good librarian is their ability to like not give two shits about how stupid they look, because it's not about us. It's about the kids enjoying themselves, and they do when
it's about the books.
It's almost never about the books.
It's about the books more than anything. You need to get those numbers up book-wise.
Do you think that? I'm sure they do. I've had a librarian on this show, and I know that they actually like count how many times a book is touched. So
touched? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you take a book out and leave it on a table or something, like that counts as a use. And so they log it. It doesn't have to be like taken out of the library.
I know that's like a thing about, because off tangent, but I use the Libby app, and I know that taking books out and stuff like that through that, or just taking them out, is a sign of
usage, yeah,
of use
desire.
on the library, which is good for the library.
Yeah. Our conversation in that episode, which go back, it's with Mixed Frazzled. They're really cool. They're a librarian, but which I've mentioned. What we were talking about in that episode was though like the struggle of books that you feel are harmful to the world. So Harry Potter, and not that Harry Potter necessarily is harmful to the world, but that J.K. Rowling is such a POS. And then for her to get money when they have to replace a book. And
you want to really take care of those books so that you don't have to buy them.
Yeah, so you don't have to buy them.
So if you have a Harry Potter book from the library, treat it gingerly.
Is that a joke? Wrong?
Yeah, sure. Because he's poor in the book. So yeah, treat it gingerly.
Okay, cool. Is he poor? I don't know. I don't want to give her any part of us, but she sucked. And I was like, that's such a moral conundrum, because Poppy and I have been to a number of libraries that celebrate banned books and making sure that banned books are accessible. And I think all books should be accessible. But then at the same time, what a conundrum to be like, but the person getting money from this is using it to make fucking bad choices, to stop information. Ugh, it's just, I'm so glad it's not my job.
I think you can make books accessible but not promote them, which I think is what they're probably saying.
That's what they do, but it's like difficult to.
Yes.
My issue was that sucks, and I'm glad that's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
But August was amazing. I recommend them so much. And then Morgan did some really great, because babies, it's so hard when they're little to get them like interactive. They have the toys, tummy time, like things like that, but it's not always so much fun for the parents. And what Morgan did was do a lot of like arts and crafts where then the parents get to take things home. So we did the bunny feet with the little.
Morgan is a librarian at a different library.
Yes. She just did some really great classes that I thought were so dope. because it allowed the kids to like get dirty and have to clean up and play with paint. And
how old was Poppy when we were there?
she had just turned 1. So she was like 12, 13 months.
Mm-hmm.
She was walking, but she was one of the early walkers. So like other kids her age weren't walking. She wasn't talking.
She knew like a handful of signs. That was it.
And so it was very difficult to take her to the older kid story time, whereas now she can go to the 3 to 5-year-old story time because she can roughhouse. She knows how to stand her own. But yeah, those 3 libraries were amazing. They were the only ones we got to go to while we were there. There's a service that I believe is through the library. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a public service center called We Play. It's at a training center, and they have something called Baby Cafe. I think it was once or twice a week. And it was a way for the community to have access to food, resources. They'd have like water. They had so many different like interactive play things. They would have breastfeeding classes. They would literally, it would be a place where you could just put the baby down and there were people there to play with them. You could take a breather, and also like they would check in. And I remember Lauren invited me to a class. It's where I met all the other really cool NOLA moms that I'm friends with. And I remember them checking in with me, and I was really nervous to talk about how we lived because I'm always afraid that it feels like we're taking from community members. And they were so like, wow, that sounds so stressful. And your kid just turned 1 and you got over a sickness. Like, how are you doing? How was like X, Y? And I was like, oh my God, they're checking in with me. Oh, that's so weird. And then it is true. It's just such a great, we wound up going 3 to 5 days a week sometimes because it did have really weird hours, but we would try and go like every week because it was so amazing. We made so many friends. The people who work there, who like, there were so many resources. They'd have classes there. If you are in New Orleans and you are able to go to We Play, I think they opened a second location. I actually reached out to them, and I'm hoping to be able to get someone on the podcast.
So Baby Cafe is...
Baby Cafe was like a part of the We Play center.
And it's babies, they work at a cafe. They're the baristas.
Yes.
Okay.
And they would have to serve us for, it was like 2 hours, and they got little
They're not paid, right?
No, because you can't pay kids, I don't think.
Okay. Understood.
Right?
You can. You I don't think they're supposed to work. Is the main thing.
But you can pay them? I thought you just couldn't pay them. I thought you could only pay the parents.
You could give
That's
anybody
why I'm getting
money.
all that money for Poppy.
You can hand anybody $20.
So true. Hey, kid, remember how you used to make money when you were younger? Mm-hmm. Can you tell that story?
I used to at friend gatherings in my...
That's like your parents hanging out
with other people.
Parents.
Yeah.
Like,
and then we had a pretty close-knit neighborhood group with a number of families that had kids within a 10-year range. Often I would end up hanging out around the adults eventually.
I think it's also important to say that you wound up hanging out with adults because you're such an old soul. You are smart. Like, you weren't like a shit kid, just like in comparison. I think Poppy's kind of similar to you in that aspect.
She's 1.5, so we'll see.
I remember when we first went on one of our like first dates or had just started dating, you had told me you were going out with your parents. And I thought, that's fucking weird, man. You're going to go hang out with your parents? And it wasn't weird because even that you were hanging out with your parents. It was weird that like you seemingly chose that instead of hanging out with me. And I was like,
a person I'd known for like a day and a half. Yeah.
But that you were trying to hook up with.
True.
But I think that in that moment, I should have been picked, but I wasn't. And I thought, that's weird. But then I met your parents and I was like, they're a lot of fun. And you're quite old because I'm so much older than you.
You are, yeah.
It's nice that you're an old soul.
I would hang out with these, like my friends' parents sometimes, and my friend's dad would tip me for essentially getting him beers from the fridge.
The fridge, was it like the fridge? Oh, it's right over there. I'm pointing at the fridge. I can see it. Or was it, oh, you have to go downstairs to the, like at your parents' house? Oh, you have to go down into the
It
refrigerator.
would depend. I feel it would be like, okay, we're out on the porch.
In the
Go grab a
kitchen.
beer, open it using the bottle opener. And then I would also be like, okay, I'm going to put another beer into the fridge because this is the last or second to last one. So I'll put another one in.
So courteous, so caring.
Mostly just so, okay.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
want
He's
to. I don't want to
paying
bring
you.
next time a warm beer and be like, "Here's all you have."
No, yeah, you're looking out for your bottom dollar.
Yeah, I'm trying to provide a good service. But
Yeah.
he would end up tipping me. I forget how we got onto this, but he would end up tipping me like $5 every 2 beers or something like that, which 2003 prices or whatever it was. That's a lot of money.
That starts to pile up. We got on the topic because you said you can give anyone $20. And it's just so true. And that's a prime example of just like, here you go, kid, here's $5. But that was back when we went somewhere yesterday and I truly thought this was illegal. But we went somewhere yesterday that did not accept cash. Like the entire place we were at didn't accept cash. And I think that's
good. I think it's good.
Yeah, I'm not against it, but I think cash is the whole purpose of it is like that it's useful everywhere, that you can get something with it everywhere. It's straight. I mean, it literally says on it transferable for goods or whatever. Like like to be like, oh no, we don't take that it's just wild to me. And I get we were at a stadium and there's a level of.
The stadium we were at also was like, there's no paper tickets. You have to have a phone.
I did not know that.
To get in here.
That seems so elitist in a sense. Like
nowadays you can get a quote unquote smartphone.
Yeah, from at the grocery store now.
For like $30. And if you're on like, and now granted, if you're unhoused or something, it's going to be a lot tougher to do all of these things. But I don't think that they're thinking about those audiences when they're like, we're going to make the shift to
cashless.
Yeah.
They're not like,
we're not okay. The 2 unhoused people a year that come to games, we're going to lose that crowd. And that's a big loss.
And obviously they want the people, like they had like photo taking stations, but it's a show to be a show. And it was the playoffs. And so there was a lot about it. I feel like that was, but I don't know. I thought, how can you not take, it's legal tender. What do you mean you can't take it? But that's also because I'm a grump. I just don't like a lot of things. The other place I wanted to talk about was, so We Play, awesome thing. I couldn't recommend it enough. I think it's a phenomenal thing. It's all free, paid for by the city mostly. I talked to somebody today and we were chatting about how New Orleans itself had such a good outreach and community for parents and children. It was such a kid-friendly city and parent-friendly city. But what I think that comes from is because it has to be in comparison to the rest of the state. And it really had to create its own outreach, its own community, and its own support. And so We Play is no exception. It's all funded by donations. So if you can support, definitely do so. That's all about that, I think. I don't know why I said it like that. We'll cut that out, though. And then the other thing we did without you was the Children's Museum. The one thing I will say about the Children's Museum that does fully and totally suck is it is not super cheap. Like, it's one of those places where because it's for kids, there's none of that you get in for free if you're under a certain age. So, like, I think Poppy at 1 year old costs like $18, and then like I was $30 or something, which is just atrocious. I went on a play date the first time and didn't plan it with the thought that it was going to cost that much money, and just was so like, oh man, this couldn't suck more. And like, I didn't think we spent like knowing the second time we went, knowing how much we were going to pay and how to get away with lying to get a cheaper ticket. Poppy all of a sudden was only 9 months old at that point, but
that'll happen. I've seen that happen. Sometimes kids get younger when tickets are cheaper that way.
That's true. But the second time we went, we also planned thinking we're gonna hang out here for a long time.
Yeah, it's like let's get here right after nap time. and push it until midnight, maybe even.
Almost. Yeah, later if you can, possibly. Whatever. But the two things I want to do with you is talk about the area that we lived in and some of the places that we went near there. Wands and
I saw you put Applebee's on the list.
I put Applebee's on the list because I went there with the moms, and it's a list compiled of all the places. I am not excluding anything. I will say it was just an Applebee's. Nothing.
It wasn't unique because I think we've been to an Applebee's.
It definitely got one high chair in the.
Oh, I disagree. I think Applebee's. Same with Chili's and all those places.
Chili's like a 4. 3 maybe. Applebee's is a solid 1. It gives you nothing. It gives you nothing.
Okay. We'll get to it.
When was the last time you went to Applebee's?
I don't remember.
You know what I looked up today?
I've been throwing those Appletinis back.
Today we were trying to figure out what to do, and I looked up if there was a rainforest cafe in the area. There wasn't. We would have to go all the way past Detroit, up Michigan, like we're right outside
into Canada.
Yeah, and then there was like one in Canada, and
most of them went bankrupt.
So weird.
It's so tough to keep all those monkeys happy, and then keep appetizers at $8.99.
Yes, yeah, so true, so true. It's like just the best place. We got to bring that back. So yeah, so I think, do we want to talk like Bourbon Street, especially for people who are like taking the trip?
I think that's probably Bourbon and Garden District.
Yeah.
I think is, or French Quarter and Garden District is probably, if you're visiting, you're going to be in one of those areas.
Yeah. And if you're visiting, both so fucking kid friendly. I think my biggest issue with the French Quarter maybe was volume. I think Poppy luckily really doesn't have an issue with loud noises. She's just like, why y'all being so loud? That's a lot. Where some kids fully freak out and don't like it. And so if your kid freaks out, maybe headphones or...
Yeah, make sure you bring that.
Plan accordingly based on that. But like, let's talk about Hammered Harry's. If you're in New Orleans, I don't get really, I think why. I don't even know why we picked it.
I think there was nobody in there, and it had a margarita deal on the window. And with the people we were with, we were like, okay.
We all looked at each other and we were like, how do we feel about this? We were just trying to have a drink, get Poppy a snack, and move on. But they're mean to you. They're mean to you. They act mean to you. And it's just, why?
Yeah, like the sassiness is part of the shtick, yeah.
And I'm not a fan of the shtick. I think, who wants this? Who goes to a place and thinks, I want you to be mean to me?
I don't think we were the clientele they were looking for. I don't think it's their problem. Fine.
Yeah, it was fine. It was very, you know what? I'm going to say 2 high chairs. And I'm going to say the food was very like bar Friday food, but everything was extra. It just like everything had a thing on it. It was like deep fried, extra battered something. Bar Tonique, I think we sat outside. It's a little bit out of French Quarter, but
yeah, it was, I would say, because we had Poppy with us, right? She was sleeping maybe.
No, we went with Becca and she was just,
I thought she was sleeping, but it was near the highway
it was near
a
street.
Highway park, but like the street it was on was fine.
Yeah, and then we sat outside. I think, how were the drinks?
Drinks were fantastic, and the prices were amazing.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm calling it out was because I think it was so good. We were told to go there by a friend, and then you just said like it was exceptional, and then Poppy was able to hang out, and it was totally cool.
I don't know what New Orleans, I imagine that it's totally fine no matter what. But what their like deal is with having children in bars.
She had been in other bars.
That's what I was just thinking. Like I was just saying that we were there during the afternoon.
Yeah, true. I guess I don't know how it gets at night, but
because I don't think we ever tried to be anywhere after 8.
Yeah, I think the 1 or 2 times we went out late at night, we went out without her. we got a babysitter. But so the other place I'm trying to think, I don't remember the name of the place we went to with your brother and sister-in-law. I always think it's weird when together we have a sister-in-law.
A shared sister-in-law? That's how it works,
I know,
baby.
it's so weird.
It was something house, maybe? I feel like it started with an M. Maybe it wasn't Napoleon House. Napoleon House was like right around the corner.
Anyway, it was some restaurant that was pretty cool. It was open, like all the windows were open.
I think it was relatively touristy in the French Quarter.
I'll look it up and add it to the show notes, guys. So if you're interested in what that place was, I'm giving it 2 high chairs and it will be named in the show notes.
Yeah, I think the French Quarter as a whole was relatively friendly, family friendly, kid friendly. The only thing I would say is the city has a tough time with sidewalk maintenance.
Yes.
I think just because of the climate and storms and it's real. So like
sidewalks are wobbly, wonky.
Try and make sure you have a stroller that can handle that if you're going to go the stroller route. French Quarter is nice because you can dip into the street and it's not that big of a deal because nobody's going quickly in the cars or anything.
Yeah,
that's just what I was thinking, because I think when we went there we had not issues, but just like everywhere going around French Quarter, it's you start to notice.
Yeah, very true. The just everything is like wobbly, and especially we have an umbrella-ish type stroller because it needs to be small enough to fit in the car, and then on top of that we're usually hanging a bag and we've got stuff in the bottom and drinks on top, and so there's always like a walkable whatever. But places in the French Quarter, Cafe du Monde, we went, that was one of the first places we went, and right next door they have, so the options at Cafe du Monde are basically you can wait in line for a really long time and sit, and they'll bring you like fresh beignets and coffee and whatever. Or you can go to a window and usually wait like 10 minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, and get takeaway beignets. So we did that. And right around the corner, there's like steps and this whole area to sit. And there was someone playing music, and Poppy got out and like danced and walked around and climbed, and we had beignets, and the music, the climbing, the area, it was a lot of fun, but it was a pretty hustly bustly area. She's not a fast walker, and she couldn't just stroll down the street on her own.
Yeah, the main French Quarter area, I would say, is you're gonna probably prefer a stroller if you do that, or a wrap, depending on the age of your kid. Probably if you're close to 5 or 6, you're okay with walking, because it is like the streets are pretty safe there vehicle wise, but there's just a lot of people moving. So,
in that the streets are safe. I think as a whole, New Orleans was one of the craziest. Like red lights were like damn near non-existent in New Orleans. They were for sure a suggestion. You couldn't take U-turns and left turns at certain places. You were supposed to go up and take a U-turn or whatever. People wouldn't do that and would take a left and just it was absolutely wild. In that aspect, if you're planning to drive there, just keep that in your brain.
Yeah, be cognizant and careful. But I think at that portion of the city, because I think a lot of people will stay in the Gardens District and walk over to French Quarter, or stay in the French Quarter at an Airbnb or something like that. Just know that the stroller is going to be your friend because of like how quickly you're going to need to move just to not be in the way with people. But also the stroller is going to be difficult to move around because
the streets are not flat, or like the sidewalks are not flat. The
sidewalks are not they're big, and then they're also like chopped up a little bit.
The other places we went to down there, I think Lafayette Square was that park where the guy's on the horse that we went to a few times, and they have like artists all around it.
I think that's Jackson Square. But that was great. Yeah.
Whichever square, that was great. So it might be Jackson Square. It's like a nice lawn area, and then all around it is literally just like artists set up selling their art there, and it's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely phenomenal. So definitely check that out. We went to,
And there's also music there and
oh my
carriage
gosh.
rides.
I think there's a church too right near there that does something.
There was like a big street performance at the church while we were there.
Yeah.
That seemed cool.
The Sazerac House was a place.
Sazerac House. I don't know if it was medium child friendly.
Oh yeah, I would give it maybe a 1. Just because she was able to walk around and see things. It's like a museum, but they sell and make whiskey. And then you get samples of whiskey.
There's, I would think, there's one flight of stairs that's not super child friendly just because it's there.
There's no railing. There's a railing, but there's no guard or don't go down here. Be careful. There's this huge stairs set. And it's got like a wall of whiskey.
And glass.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would say it's pretty much like you can keep an eye on the kid. You can read the stuff on the wall. You can get the free sample and everything like that. And then
yeah, it's a free
there's
tour.
the gift shop. Yeah, it's free. You just have to sign up beforehand.
Yeah, you get some free alcohol. You get to try some pretty famous whiskey cocktails.
I think it's right off of Canal Street. So if you want to feel like, oh, I'm doing a cool learning thing in New Orleans, but I'm also getting some whiskey and stuff like that before I actually go drinking in Bourbon Street, go for it.
We also went to the vampire place where they sold like bags of wine.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
That's so weird. But that's totally a thing that people did. Oh, the trolley. I think we should definitely mention that we were able to...
The streetcar, yeah.
The streetcar, sorry. Phenomenal. I think that's also, if you have the opportunity, it's an open window, like streetcar that can take you down through the French Quarter and bring you back up.
Yeah, it depends where you are. But when we were there, because we were in Leonidas area is where we were staying. And so the streetcar took us all the way down to Carrollton, past the Garden District to Canal Street. It was a long ride for us, but if you have a kid, it's nice because it's not moving quickly. You can sit them on your lap and have them look out the window.
Yeah, see things that are moving.
Mm-hmm.
Be cautious because the windows are open. If, let's say, your kid's wearing a sweater and they take it off to keep it on their lap or something, they might throw it out the window and you'll lose that sweater forever.
We did, yeah. I forget which sweater exactly, but it was a nice one.
It was the pink elegant baby, like knit. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. It was gifted to us by a lovely family. It was such a fucking bummer. Ugh. Still think about that. And she would have still fit into that, would have lasted this season too. She probably wouldn't have worn it because it wasn't teal. Do you have anything else like Bourbon Street
Garden District, Bourbon Street?
No, I'm thinking Bourbon Street, French Quarter. We haven't touched Garden District really.
I would say for us, we were there for a long time. We were there for a month. Just take advantage of the fact that you can walk down the street with a beer or a daiquiri or anything. Like, if you're staying, especially in Bourbon Street, or in the French Quarter, where it's fully legal, you can just go out, put your kid in the stroller, have a beer, walk around.
Give your wife a break.
Yeah. Give your partner a little snooze or whatever they need while you're on vacation and you can have a nice time yourself too.
I stroll about with a beer. I'm not really a drinker, and I went into New Orleans thinking that it was going to be like a big party city and it was just going to be like bachelorette parties and people going nuts. And I just did not think it was going to be for us. I didn't think there was going to be a big community or family atmosphere. And I was so mistaken. It was so family friendly, so cool. People are super fun. Granted, again, we weren't out at 10 o'clock at night, but we stayed out until 7 or 8.
We stayed out, I think, twice until 11 or so. But yeah, without a child.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, with Poppy, we stayed out, especially getting home from the French Quarter or whatever. She was out pretty late and it was totally doable. People are super friendly, super helpful. There's lots of places that are accessible. And so She loves a stop. I love a stop. So being able to stop. Huge fan of beignets. I'm going to say get them if you go.
They're so good.
I'm never going to say, yeah. Why aren't they just everywhere all the time forever?
I feel like you gotta have them hot is the reason. Because if they're not hot, it's just like soggy fried dough.
Yeah.
And then, so you
They're still not terrible.
True.
But they're for sure, you'll eat them, but they're so good fresh, especially. So we had powdered sugar ones. And I guess there's also glazed sugar. But it's such a good crunch, the sweet. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
You're agreeing? Oh, okay.
I think they're fantastic. I think I feel like it's on your list for probably later, but if you don't want to hit Cafe du Monde, if it seems too
much,
too intimidating, the City Park, like Cafe du Monde.
Conservatory City Park, which is right where the Children's Museum is as well. It's huge. There's so many like different park areas, playground. Mm-hmm. We took Tilly there at one point. She had such a blast. And there's an area called Storyland or Storytime. And it's got all these different characters and you can walk through and see Humpty Dumpty and princesses and whatever. But yes, they have a Cafe du Monde there. So you can go and get the like off, not French Quarter, not craziness. Get them at the park. There's still a line.
Yeah, there's a small line.
5 minutes and you get them and then you can sit at the park. It's beautiful. And there's like different birds and different animals and beautiful trees.
Yeah, there's a nice little pond and
playground. It's just A+ vibes. I think if you want, we can talk about the Garden District a bit. And then when we come back next week, we can talk about some of the other places, some of the pizza places, some of the things in Mid-City that we went to and the different kid-based activities, the aquarium, insectarium, blah, blah, blah.
Let's get it.
But yeah, so Garden District, we did Lily's Cafe. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? Because
vaguely.
It was Vietnamese food. We went towards the end. Yeah. It was like one of the last weeks.
Yeah, because we've been really recommended it.
Yeah.
And it was very good. Yeah.
Oh, man, it was so good. I feel like Vietnamese food is maybe like it's in my top 10 favorite foods, but it's low on that list. And it was just so good. It really blew me away. And so I
feel like with Vietnamese food, we got spring rolls for Poppy and broke them apart. Mm-hmm. With Vietnamese food, there's so much. There's your typical Vietnamese dishes, but then there's also, you can get pho, you can get banh mi.
Yeah, there were so many options.
So no matter what, unless you don't like food, you're going to be able to find something on the
menu. You should be able to. I can think of a number of people in our lives who very easily would be like, oh no, I don't like that food.
I feel like that's more of I don't want to try something, not True. Necessarily. I don't like that.
Yeah. Spicy.
Vietnamese food isn't really that spicy.
No, it's not. But I know people who would think it's spicy and that it's not a hamburger. So Lily's, definitely, yes. I would say 3. It was a bit small. It wasn't like huge, but I think it was definitely like kid friendly. There was space. They were really nice. They were.
Yeah, the waiters and everything were like pretty
conscious of her and
as a child. Yes.
Yeah. They just think like conscious of her in the not having to ask for things because we have
making sure that when we're putting stuff down, we're not putting it right in front of the kid.
Yeah.
And that's sort of thing. It's just like
it happens all the time. Though.
I've been around children before.
The here's a hot bowl of soup. I'm just going to place this down real quick right in front of your infant child who seems very unaware of whatever
temperature.
I would say 10 out of 10. If you can go there, go. I think kid friendly enough. Definitely not made for kids, but kid friendly. And then Maya's restaurant.
Yeah, it's like Latin food. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I think the food was good. I think it wasn't super kid friendly. I think it I think they just had a high chair.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember if they had a kids menu.
No, I don't think that they did. I'm feeling like they might not have had a high chair because I can distinctly remember her sitting on multiple people's laps that night.
No, I think they did have a high chair.
I just know that she could be a scutch sometimes, so that could be why she was sitting on everyone. Remember that little kid who was playing imaginary there? And he was, that was so cute.
There was there was like 4 other kids
families
there.
Yeah, and there was like, and it seemed like on some nights that they could do kid-based things because I think they had an event where they were doing face painting in a couple days. But the kid who was there, it was his birthday and he was dressed as like a pirate and his name was, I forget what his name was, but he was like that night, he was like, I'm Elvis tonight. And wouldn't let anyone call him by his actual name. He was so cute. But yeah, I think Maya's was good. I think if you're in the area, you're looking for food, I wouldn't say don't go there. Yeah. But I don't know if I would say go out of your way to go there.
I think Lily's Cafe is definitely of a go there.
I think Fatima's was also over there. That was a nice little cafe that I went to with Poppy, and it had like actual little yayas sitting in the corner doing their knitting and praying and stuff.
And what are yayas?
Grandmothers.
Okay.
Everybody knows what a yaya is.
Not everybody. There's at least one person listening that's, I don't know what a yaya is.
Wow. A yaya is essentially Middle Eastern grandmother.
Mediterranean. Middle Eastern, yeah.
They're cute little, you just want to, and the grandmothers at this location were no exception. They were very cute. We, at the time, were teaching Poppy how to say hello in Turkish, and I was trying to get her to say hello in Turkish to these people, and she would not do it. But I would say definitely if you can go there, it's worth it. The food was absolutely amazing. Such a great spot. And then I don't think this is anywhere near any of these places, but they have locations all over New Orleans. The one we went to was in Gretna, but it was called Toast. This is the place that I genuinely compare on my list of high chairs for a place. This is a 5 out of 5 high chairs. This was the place that had the playground in the seating area. Yeah, so it was like a bunch of seating, and then around in the middle of this whole area of the restaurant was a turf with one of those like outdoor play sets, just like, here you go, kids, go nuts. And so parents could just, and the food was on top of it exceptional, but it was and it seemed like they were intentional about putting parents with kids out there in the back. There was also like a front area inside where like you did not have to sit out there with all those kids if that wasn't something that you wanted. But if you have kids, I know that they have other locations throughout New Orleans. So if you can go to one, I'm going to say 5 out of 5. Go. Can you think of anywhere else that you want to?
In the Garden District / French Quarter area? I don't think so.
I think next, I'm going to talk about Dark Matter. It was this really cool oddities place we went to, and that's where we got Poppy her Baffy doll that she's got a little like Baphomet lovey that we got there, and they had a ton of really cool taxidermy stuff. I'm going to say just like that place was awesome. If you can, just stop in there. I think that was all the places in those areas we checked out. Next week, we'll talk about the insectarium, the aquarium, the zoo. We went to multiple zoos. We went to one in New Orleans, and we went to one outside of New Orleans.
Across like the lake.
Yeah. Called Zoo to You. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited to tell you guys about it because that shit was nuts. And then I have a couple other kid activities that I did with Poppy that we'll talk about again next week. I think if you can, tune in.
All right. We'll see you next
week
to talk more about New Orleans, the city as a family.
Yes.
That's the podcast.
The whole podcast. That's what's happening here. So next week and then this week and then probably continuing forward, we'll do more talking about what it's like traveling as a family and what places are like for families. So if that is at all something you're into, or if you're just into traveling, or if you're just into families, all of the above, we got you.
Send this podcast to one of your best friends who you think will enjoy it right now
And
before this episode's over.
Like, subscribe, rate, review, and follow us on all the streaming thingies. We're on, I was literally just going to tag us as like last podcast on like why. That's not our podcast. But no, you can find us on Patreon at Momatic Adventures. You can find us on YouTube at Momatic Adventures Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Momatic Adventures Pod. I'm twiddling with the idea of getting a TikTok. Twiddling. I don't know if it's going to happen. Oh, we're on Threads. Fucking love Threads. If you're on Threads, find us there. Anyway, we love you. We hope to see you soon. I can't wait for next week. Bye.